John invited me to share a Christmas story. My Christmas story is inspired by one of my favorite storytellers, Garrison Keillor. The Christmas of the Great Flu. Ever had one of those? I was 13 years old. I was 5 feet 9 inches tall and weighed approximately 197 pounds. I guess that's why my brother called me Pork Chop. My mother assured me, however, that I was not fat, just pleasantly plump. I remember the day distinctly. It was raining outside, no hope of a white Christmas, and the weather outside matched how I was feeling inside. I felt rather moody, burdened with the weight of Christmas. For you see, as the youngest of my family, it was my job, my responsibility, to maintain a certain enthusiasm for Christmas. My siblings encouraged me to keep believing in Santa for Mom and Dad's sake. It's a wonder anyone can take me seriously today. I lived in a big red brick house with 2 older brothers and a sister, and of course our parents were there too, hard-working, God-fearing people, trying to make an honest living and keep a family of 6 afloat, muttering to each other, anxious, frazzled, the way parents tend to be. Who left the ice cream sitting on the counter? Why does the pantry smell like dirty running shoes? As Christmas approached, I pored over the Eton catalog and lusted after a pocket-sized transistor radio and bell-bottom jeans and a navy pea jacket. My mother worried constantly about the tree bursting into flames and killing us, so a pail of water was kept at the ready at all times. And my father worried about bankruptcy. Do you think money grows on trees? Where's the money going to come from to pay for all of this, he cried out when he saw Mother filling out the Eton catalog order form. Of course, these days, money comes from credit cards. Back then, we had to write checks, and you had to actually take the check with you to the Eton catalog store on Main Street. No check, no service. And there were no 800 numbers at that time. It truly was dark ages. My father believed that if his bank balance fell below 0, we would have to go live in the poorhouse in Elora, where we would wear baggy clothing and eat cold porridge and peas for every meal. I vowed that I would never be obsessed with such petty materialistic concerns. It was Christmas Eve afternoon when my brother Neil complained of feeling feverish and achy. He abandoned his job of trimming the tree and left my mother and I to hang the last of the tinsel and to plug in the lights, which didn't light up, so I had to spend an hour screwing and unscrewing bulbs to find the bad one. And when I got the tree lit up and stood back to admire it, I could hear my brother's size 12s thump along the upstairs hall, making a dash for the bathroom. I put a stack of records on the hi-fi in an attempt to get the family in a more joyous mood. And then my mother shouted that I'd left the lights plugged in. She was beside herself. She had dozens of gifts to wrap and supper to make, and Aunt Cora was coming. Aunt Cora was actually married to my father's uncle, who died an untimely death and left Aunt Cora childless, which meant she was always free for Christmas. Every year, the Sunday before Christmas, Aunt Cora would corner someone at church and say in a choked voice, "I guess I'll have to eat at the Royal Inn for Christmas." Some relatives would tell Aunt Cora, "Well, I heard the Royal Inn does delicious dinners. You should have a wonderful time." But Mother had a soft heart, and so we got Aunt Cora. Mother bought her a box of cream-filled Laura Secords and wrapped it in white tissue paper and tied it with a red ribbon and curled the bow. By the time Aunt Cora arrived for supper, Fred had fallen. He and Neil were in their beds upstairs, moaning and groaning about somebody's revenge. Neil made another trip to the toilet, and Fred was right behind him, banging on the door. It was a sad scene. Lynn and I were still standing, but it promised to be a long night. Mother sent me upstairs with ginger ale and toast cut in strips, and the look of misery in their eyes was quite touching. "Will we still have Christmas tomorrow?" one of them asked in a shaky voice. "I frankly doubt it," I said. "I don't see how you can expect Santa to come and get your germs and spread them to every other house on the planet." They both groaned and told me to leave. Fred threw a box of Kleenex, but missed me and hit the door. I closed the door and went downstairs. Mother served a hearty supper of creamed tuna on toast with peas, and Aunt Cora, a good eater, reminisced about her happy younger days when art was alive, days that would never come again. After supper, we gathered around the tree and plugged in the lights and turned on the radio, where a rerun of Fibber McGee and Molly were decorating their tree, and Fibber remembered an ornament that he was sure was still in the closet. Mother insisted we turn out the lights in case they got too hot, and Dad, deciding it was time for bed, went to the basement to put coal in the furnace. Because Aunt Cora had moved into my room, Mother made me a bed on the couch, and Dad reminded me that we'd be having a proper breakfast before any gifts were opened. I came to at 8 o'clock to the smell of frying bacon and Tennessee Ernie Ford singing Christmas carols on the record player. Dad whistled in the kitchen while poaching the eggs. He came into the living room, pulled off my blankets, and told me to wake up my brothers and sister. Lynn responded positively, but Fred Neal muttered something about bodily harm if I didn't leave the room. After breakfast, I opened a gift from Mother, a striped green bathrobe. Turned out I opened 3 striped bathrobes, a blue one, a red one for each of the boys, but they all had my name on it. When it was Dad's turn, he opened a gift from me, a box of cherry chocolates, and I felt a queasiness ripple through me. Aunt Cora opened her chocolates and immediately started to weep. They reminded her of something precious in her past, and she ate one and burst into tears and ate another and another and another. And seeing the chocolates disappear into her made me even queasier. Would anyone like to sing? Asked my sister. She was on her way to the piano. She started in On a Way in a Manger. My father looked at me in a thoughtful way, and I recognized what he was thinking. He was feeling queasy too. Didn't feel at all like singing. He swallowed, so did I. That unmistakable salivation that precedes the dreadful moment. Well, you know what I'm talking about. Lynn sang Away in a Manger in a clear soprano voice, thumping out the accompaniment, and it didn't inhibit her a bit to sing a solo. Lynn loved Christmas with all her heart. She and Charles Dickens were 2 of a kind. She truly believed that on this day of all days, mankind was able to put aside its meanness and jealousy and express generosity and kindred love. And so, as she sailed into it, came upon a midnight clear, I felt a certain turgidity in the lower intestinal tract, a sense of my inwards about to turn inside out. All I could think about was that poached egg and bacon. I could see that Dad was in the grip of a similar experience. Aunt Cora, on the other hand, was weeping for the happy days of yore and stuffing cream-filled chocolates into her hand over fist. She closed her eyes and sobbed, and her mouth opened, and it was brown and gooey inside. And that was when I rose from my chair and headed for the stairs and the bathroom. I won't describe the scene for you. I'll only say that I've never lost so much weight in such a short time. Perhaps they wouldn't call me pork chop any longer. When I emerged pale and perspiring, I went straight to my parents' bed and pulled the covers over my head. But as I lay there, I was surprised that I felt somewhat joyous, not moody, not burdened at all. Somehow nausea and vomiting clarified my thinking. My vague sense of gloom was relieved by a specific misery. And when the misery was over, I felt a little burst of euphoria. I think I've come to inherit some of my sister's love of Christmas. And every year I feel that lovely wash of sensations and memories and sounds and smells that are pure Christmas, the good things of childhood relived. And if I should ever start to feel anxious, are 2 turkeys enough for 50 people? Will Uncle Bert really like the whoopee cushion we got him? I think to myself, it's Christmas, and I'm not throwing up. And suddenly I can see clearly again, and everything is back in perspective, and makes me think that Christmas really is the best time of the year. I hope you do too.